Ladies and gentlemen, this is Gail Morgan welcoming you to the Libertarian Counterpoint's Knuckleheads of Liberty podcast. You've heard their point, now listen to the counterpoint.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Knuckleheads of Liberty podcast. Today is April 21st, 2021. Still just sort of struggling our way through this Biden administration. But before we get into any of the topics of the day, let me introduce to you our panel. So in our upper left-hand corner, we have our screaming eagle of freedom, Tim Everett. He is a pilot in the state of California. And in our upper right-hand corner, we have Leon, the word Brathwaite, last word in Liberty. He is a retired engineer in the state of California. And as a special guest today, we have Aaron Comey of Escaping the Echo Chamber. So it's a sort of a Liberty-based podcast, I guess. We'll get into that with Aaron throughout the show and let him have a chance to talk about his podcast. And my name is Jason McPhee, and I'll be your host today. So let's talk with Aaron a little bit. You know, this is something we've been doing a podcast here for about a year now on this, and some of us were working with Libertarian Counterpoint. We were, participating in that show before that, and so this has been kind of a fun experience. But recently we kind of ran into Aaron's show too, and thought it might be interesting to hear about other people who've had experiences with running a podcast as well during this time of, I guess, assault on our liberties. So let's jump right to it. So Aaron, tell us a little bit about your show, Escaping the Echo Chamber.
Well, I started the YouTube channel about 4 years ago, and I just wasn't putting up a lot of content. So especially over the past year, I said, you know what, I have to get serious. I have to just actually put out some more content. And I started, working on just being more regular, getting content out, and just getting more comfortable in front of the camera and actually behind the scenes, editing and everything like that.
So what's the focus of your show? What kind of topics do you usually like to talk about on your show?
Generally, the political, social topics of the day. I want to provide a perspective, from like a libertarian point of view, but at the same time, I don't want to just be preaching to the choir. And so because I see this so much of just tribalism, and people just have they fall into these camps and they don't want to hear anything different. So I try to bring in other perspectives in terms of seeing things, of trying to see things from other perspectives, to try to get people to say, well, maybe I can be a little bit more open to what somebody else thinks about this.
Could you give us an example? I mean, I love what you just said about trying to open up minds and giving people a little different perspective. I really love that thought. But could you kind of like give us an example of what exactly how you do this, or what you do in terms of getting out that different perspective out there?
Right. So as of now, I'm not at the point where I've been bringing guests on, but what I'll do is I'll examine a topic and try to see it from the perspective of other people. So like I did a show last year. I did a episode about how horrible Biden is. But then I said, you know what? let me do an episode with what's positive about Biden, or what other people may like about Biden, because there were people that were celebrating in the streets, and so I said, let me try to see things from their perspective. Additionally, the January 6th incident, like I said, let me look from the perspective of people who were there, who were scared, who felt like their world is collapsing, and they felt that this is what they needed to do in order to, preserve, some kind of normalcy, stop things from just descending into chaos.
Okay, fair enough. Okay.
Well, certainly the point of your show, I guess, in the title, Escaping the Echo Chamber. I mean, that's on point with the problems of today. I mean, we see all these people, they're either on Team Red or Team Blue, and it doesn't matter what comes out of their team, it's golden, and the other team is just a monster. Seems to be what it is, and it's really terrible, because I think we're really seeing this in the media play out as well too. You have sort of the CNNs and others, and they almost seem to be a wing of the Democrat Party, and then of course Fox News. Certainly, I mean, you saw it with Hannity. I mean, it was almost like Trump's personal interviewer. so it's kind of it's really dangerous, because we're almost like we're living in two different realities.
Yeah, really, and it's like people are just so convinced of their own righteousness, and that in itself is a dangerous position to be, because if somebody is 100% that they're convinced they're righteous, and that anybody who disagrees with them is evil, how far will they go to stop that evil? And
yes,
and it's where we're at right now.
And you know, that's a very good point, because now I think the media, especially the mainstream media and probably big tech also, is really about demonizing people to disagree with.
Yes.
I mean, look at our little show. We just started our show about a year ago. We put up content often. YouTube is just begin taking down some of our stuff. We had one show was taken down some time ago, and another one is just being taken down, as James announced. So the demonization of people that disagree with is something that is becoming so commonplace that people beginning to think it's normal and acceptable.
Definitely. Yeah, and it's so scary, because people. The way the people are just so convinced about their righteousness of their tribe, they will watch their tribe do something the other tribe just finished doing, but because their tribe is doing it, now it's a good thing. Oh, no, it was the worst thing in the world when the other guys did it. Oh, well, now that we're doing. Oh, no, this is okay. There's a reason for this. This makes sense.
Well, and we just saw this too with respect to the elections. 2016. The election was invalid, and it was all about election security, and it was Russia. Now suddenly, you question the election? Oh my gosh! If you say anything, we're going to cancel you, because that's just unpatriotic, and you want to ruin the country. Oh yeah, it's just. But that is something too with respect to the self-righteousness. That's something I caught on to that you were saying, and I think if we look back into the evils of history, where people just did terrible things to each other, it's usually in the vein that people have thought they were more righteous than the people that they were I guess brutalizing. And so I think that's something maybe hopefully we're not heading into that right now.
Aaron, have you noticed that also in social media, this whole thing with echo chambers and so you'll have somebody and no one dares step into their echo chamber with something that disputes it, because they're not part of that tribe. And so do you notice this tribalism?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And although I understand why like YouTube and Twitter do some of the things they do, it's actually not helping. So where in terms of like Twitter, where they introduced a feature where people can choose who can respond to their tweets.
Oh, is that right?
Yes. So
I never knew that.
Yeah. So it's great. So you'll see certain tweets, like Alyssa Milano did it. So she did a tweet about how great the Democratic Party is, and then wouldn't let anybody who she doesn't follow respond. So it just became, so all the responses are like, yes, you're right. Democrats are awesome, and it's like, and so everybody just looks down this feed and just believes that's the entire reality. And anybody, it's got to just be a minuscule minority who disagree, and they're crazy anyway.
An absolute echo chamber.
That's almost brilliant when you think about it. Because the first thing I would do is be, what? I can't say anything? Okay, I'm coming back. Oh, now I'm really pissed. And I can't respond to this person? I don't know.
Well, what's funny about that too, though, is I remember early on in the Trump administration, Trump tried to ban some people from his Twitter stream, I think,
He
and
did, yes.
told he couldn't.
Right, right,
Yes.
right, right.
AOC
Against the rules.
also tried to do that too, and
Yes.
she couldn't. Yeah, she also tried.
Well,
I bet Tulsi Gabbard didn't do it.
Well, Tim, we know about the obsessions of Tulsi. Okay, I mean, come on.
Hey, she looks great in a white pantsuit. Okay, so give me a break.
Well, so Aaron, what specifically drove you to start this YouTube channel?
Well, when I was running for office in New York, at the very beginning, I decided to make some videos for Facebook, and it was hard. Like, I remember my first video, I think I spent like an hour and a half trying to make a 5-minute video.
Welcome to my world. Oh yeah, you and I should talk about making videos.
Right, like it was a lot harder than I thought it would be, and so I said, okay, I need to get practice with this, and I had the opportunity to go on, some television shows, and I just I wasn't entirely satisfied with my appearances. I was like, I need to be more comfortable in front of the camera. I felt a little bit when I was watching back that I felt a little wooden and stiff. I said, okay, I need to get more comfortable. And so I said, just getting in front of the camera, doing it more regularly is definitely going to help.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Just excuse me, just as a side note, Aaron, you said you ran for office in New York?
Yes. Yeah, I ran for mayor in 2017.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
All right.
So,
Yeah. Well, I know he did not win. No, I know he did not win. But how was that experience, though?
Oh wow, it was really interesting. I learned a lot. It was scary at times, but I really enjoyed it because it gave me an opportunity to get out there to spread some messages and some ideas about criminal justice reform, governmental reform, educational reform, because educational reform was really a big portion of what I was running on. I wanted to redo the curriculums instead of and introduce economics, finance, business management, entrepreneurship into the curriculum so that kids could graduate from high school and not just have to get a minimum wage job. They can actually run businesses, start at higher levels of companies instead of just McDonald's or Dwayne Reed.
So did you run as a libertarian or you ran as an independent?
Yes, I ran as a libertarian.
Libertarian. Okay, that's good. Yes. That's good. Okay.
No wonder he lost.
Well, it sounds like the one of your drivers of your, I guess, political awakening then is education. Is that really your main focus?
So that is one of my main focuses now because I realize how much it impacts everything else. So in terms of criminal justice reform, because I have my own personal experiences with the criminal justice system, but I realize how just a horrible educational system that's designed to set people up for failure leads into that. So the school to prison pipeline is real.
Yes.
Because they basically are giving you like one of three outs. You're once you go from school, you're either a low wage worker, military, or prison. Especially in certain low quality schools, and there's a lot of these low quality schools here in New York City. And it's like, if you change that, you can change the trajectory of so many young people's futures.
It seems like instead of going directly to prison, don't stop at go, don't collect $200.
Right.
It's actually your first stop is crime. So because you've got these low wage job opportunities, which
Yes.
aren't, and you don't want to go into the military for 8,000 different reasons, then your alternative, if and it's probably there's a pipeline that leads people that direction, but it's crime, and then they commit crime, get caught, and now they're in prison. So so that's what you're saying.
Yeah, you got the cat on the corner who's like, listen, you can go get this job flipping burgers for minimum wage, or you could just move some packs for me. Boom, you get all new clothes, nice cars, everything, And so there's a very capitalistic mindset there, but the government steps in and says, okay, we're taking everything, we're locking you up, and it's really it's really messed up.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, I think there are a lot of issues there involved with that. With what you just described, I in general agree. But I think things at the home and then things with the schools, both of which are seriously problematic. I think these days, I think we could do a whole show on those issues in terms of how that high school to pipeline is really constructed. I mean, what are the elements of its construction, at least on the input side? I think it's something that we could probably talk about one day. I would really like to talk to you about that. I mean, today might not be the day, but we should really talk about that. I would really love to.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And was your thrust to try and introduce competition in education, I guess school choice, that kind of thing, or did you have other ideas on that?
Well, I definitely want school choice, but I felt that it wasn't enough to just have the opportunity to go to a charter school or one of New York City public schools. I felt that because the curriculum, it's 13 years of school, and what are kids actually learning? It's a lot. It's like they're just keeping kids busy, and just keep doing this, and then okay, now you can graduate and you can't get a good job, so you need to go to college, and that's going to be $50,000 a year. So you're going to be in massive debt. It's like this huge trap that is being set up for young people, and I don't see enough pushback against it. There's very little pushback against it. Like, wait a minute, this plan, you're setting people up for failure, and this is just horrible.
Imagine a business if you set up your customers for failure. I can't imagine. Only a government monopoly.
Yes, how could you expect success? Aaron, I mean, we may differ slightly on the solution. I think we both recognize the problem here about these schools, especially in the urban parts of America. Obviously, there's a big problem there with the schools and in terms of how they're educating our children. We may differ slightly on the solution, because I think the only thing that's going to solve that problem really and truly is competition in the schools, school choice. Okay. Let parents make the decision where they want to send their kids. I mean, I raised two boys, and for the most part, they went to public schools. I live in the suburbs of at the time we were living in the suburbs of Sacramento, and it worked out okay. But I had some real problems about the public schools and some of the things that they were teaching the kids.
Absolutely. And
I think since then, it have gotten worse.
Right.
And I think the only way we could attack that problem, and like I said, and I'm open for ideas, quite frankly, but as I stand right now, the only way we can solve that problem, I believe, is allowing competition in the schools. Let parents make these decisions. Take the very same money we have in the education budget, hand it to divide it up among the kids, hand it voucher to the parents. Parents decide wherever you want to go. I think that's the only way it's going to solve.
Oh no, I'm not disputing that. I just and definitely there's school choice. Like, I was definitely going to support school choice. It was just that I wanted to make sure that there was changes to the school system in itself, but I want to make sure people have the opportunity that if they just want to get rid of not even deal with the public school system, they have that opportunity, because homeschooling should be allowed and shouldn't be as hindered or is even as micromanaged as it is by the state. The state shouldn't be, okay, no, you have to teach the kids, like it's our kids. Like, why is the state making these decisions for our kids?
Well,
good point. We totally on the same page on that issue. Seriously, we are.
Yes.
Well, Aaron, one of the kind of, I guess, pivotal people in the past of this issue of school choice was Milton Friedman, and I guess a lot of people got exposed to him through Free to Choose. Well, what sources kind of got, I guess, sort of oriented you towards liberty? Were you reached early on in life, or was there some thinker like Milton Friedman or somebody who reached
Ron Paul? Seeing Ron Paul in the 2012 election. At that time, I was doing, a lot of legal research, and at the time, I was actually incarcerated. So I was doing legal research, and it's when I found out that I'm looking up law and doing like pro se work with other guys, and I'm finding out that the drug war is the Democrats are responsible for the drug war. It's like, wait a minute, I thought these were supposed to be the good guys. Like they're just expanding government, locking people up. Like, and I'm reading a speech by Bill Clinton, like how he's just so proud of himself for just like, I'm going to destroy so many lives. It's just, I'm awesome, And, and so when I'm like, I was like, we got to look at the Republicans now, because if they're talking about small government, as much hell as we're catching from government, that's something we should be looking at. But there were so many Republicans that didn't actually believe in small government until I saw Ron Paul, and I'm like, wait a minute, this guy's the real deal.
Yes.
And and so then I heard, that was the first time I heard the term libertarian. I was like, I gotta look these guys up.
Another disciple of Ron Paul's fantastic influence over so many young people too, and I'm assuming Aaron looks pretty young to me, so I'm assuming that he's in that category. So many young people have been turned on to the whole idea of a philosophy of liberty and principles, and from a principled man like Ron Paul. And so, boom, now we've got, these seeds springing up themselves. And here's Aaron, one of those seeds that's blossoming, into somebody with principles. That's awesome.
You raise the point about the Republicans doing some of the same crap the Democrats do, and I think that's such a valid point. I mean, I started off, associated with the Republican Party after I became a citizen, which was in the mid-90s. But the deeper I go with the Republicans, the more I see, some of these guys, they're not different than the Democrats.
Right.
It really bothers me. It truly bothered me. And I've since kind of drifted away from them, obviously. And I'm not a member of the Libertarian Party, like Jason wants me to be, but I do hold some of their principles.
I'm not either, but I think it's a good idea. I should probably join. I've been meaning to, but because we can influence. It's easier to. I know the Libertarian Party has lots of issues, but we can be more influential if we're like in the Mises Caucus, for example, and associate with them, and that gets bigger and more influential over the entire Libertarian Party. Then we could sure stand a better success rate in that venue than we can in the Republican venue, for example, or the Democrat venue. Although there's people there too, that are duking it out for liberty, in both parties. Okay, so I'll mention her name again. So there's Tulsi.
There we go again.
Yeah,
You can't resist.
And of course Thomas Massey and Justin Amash and all these other Rand Paul and all these other Republicans that are, just trying to put their little fingers in the wall. That's the little Dutch boy trying to keep the sea out of Holland, and that's what they're doing. And so thank God for them. But I do think that we, stand a better chance of influencing Libertarian Party. At least it's got the right name.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
I'm Aaron. Yeah. I was going to say part of the reason maybe why we call ourselves the Knuckleheads is because I'm having such a hard time convincing these guys. Tell us just a little bit about your future plans for your show too. What do you envision for the future of your show?
Oh yeah, definitely. So one of the things I've been doing is doing a lot of research in terms of growing the channel. Because I see you have voices that are your Young Turks, they've got a big following. You've got you've got people on the right that have these huge followings, and I really want the liberty movement to have much more of a voice. We have this platform gives us the opportunity to get another perspective out there, and the media is not giving us the shot. So traditional media, like when Larry Sharpe ran here in New York, they intentionally shut him out intentionally. I remember at one point we're in Times Square, not Grand Central Station, and the media is there with the Republican candidate, and he's got 4 people with him. There's 30 of us with Larry, holding up signs, and a cameraman is actually arguing on the phone with his producers to let him cover Larry. And they refuse. So it's I know that we have to take advantage of these alternative medias, because this is the opportunity to level the playing field.
Indeed.
Yeah. More,
but
sure.
in general, you talk about expanding the thinking and putting a different perspective out there. I think at our root, at our base, life, liberty, and the freedom to pursue happiness.
Yes.
We start there, and then everything could grow from there. To me, quite frankly, that's how I think about things.
Right.
And I think we basically share that value, and I think that's a good thing. I think that's a good thing.
Thank you. Yes, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, first thing I thought of was what happened to Ron Paul during the 2012 election, and how he was. It's who's it? Let's say we got a guy in first, we got a guy in second, this other guy in fourth, and wait a minute, what about the guy in third place? What about him? And he's a congressman too.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then, of course, I'm a knucklehead for Tulsi. She got marginalized by the Democrats.
Oh yeah.
She got marginalized big time by the Democrats. Oh, the things they did to her. It's is someone jealous about the white pantsuit? Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, watching MSNBC's coverage of her, they just made stuff up. They called her a Russian asset, and they just ran with it. They ran with it, and even after Hillary backtracked, the pundits and their commentators were still going full bore with it. It was absurd. Yeah.
Indeed. Indeed.
And
I'm sorry. I just wanted to end on a positive note and totally agree with Aaron. There's a new sheriff in town, and that sheriff is in the internet, and the internet is talking. Okay, and people are listening. Okay, we're not tuning on CNBC and MSNBC anymore. Okay, for the most part, we're looking at our cell phone. If we see a podcast that pops up on iTunes, and it's this guy talking about the echo chamber, let me give that guy a listen. Okay, and then boom, all of a sudden, off we go to the race. Off Aaron goes to the races.
And that's the point, I think, too, is that like Aaron was saying, there's these media channels. They're only giving us essentially echo chambers. That's all we're getting. So, if you want to escape the echo chamber, take a look at Aaron's show and go check it out online. And hopefully you'll join us for the next one here, too, on Knuckleheads of Liberty. Thanks so much for joining us, and we will see you at the next one. Stay free.
Bye.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Which is coming right up. Stay tuned. Literally, stay tuned. Because I think we're just going to smoothly transition, are we not?
So what happens now?
Who's directing this show?
We would if you guys would give me 3 seconds of silence.
Look at the clock. I love the clock. Clock's ticking.
3 seconds of silence. I mean, 3 seconds of silence.
James, come on, man. We are libertarians. We don't let scrap.
Yeah, I know. You guys are killing me over here. All right.
Hey, you've got an edit button, okay?
That's right.
No, Gail has the edit button. That's not me. Anyway, he's going to have fun with this one. All right, here we go.
All right. Yeah, we're ready, obviously. Here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Gail Morgan welcoming you to the Libertarian Counterpoint's Knuckleheads of Liberty podcast. You've heard their point, Now listen to the counterpoint.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Knuckleheads of Liberty podcast. We're coming at you on April 21st, 2021, about 3 or 4 months into the Biden. It seems forever with the assault on liberty that we're getting. But before we get into this, let's introduce our panel today. In our upper left-hand corner, we have our screaming eagle of freedom, Tim Everett. He is a pilot in the state of California. In our upper right-hand corner, we have Leon, the word Brathwaite, last word in liberty. He is a retired engineer in the state of California. We have a special guest today joining us. His name is Aaron Comey, and he has a podcast, Escaping the Echo Chamber, which he does out of New York. And we're actually going to take advantage of that a little bit today because we're going to talk about some comparisons with respect to California and New York and all the crazy assaults that are going on our liberties here. And before we get into that, also, my name is Jason McPhee, and I'll be your host today. So let's jump right into it. California, I mean, well, we've got our governor is heading towards a recall, it looks like, and that's probably going to be a lot of political circus. Certainly, it seems like Cuomo probably deserves one too, but I haven't heard of anything happening on that side yet over here. But gosh, we've got all kinds of people starting to come out of the woodwork, it looks like. So they got Caitlyn Jenner starting to throw her hat into the ring. It looks like there may be a few other Republicans in the state who've starting to step in. I think, I'm trying to remember some of the, I haven't heard of any libertarians yet, so hopefully we'll get some libertarians in there as well.
The former mayor of San Diego, a guy by the name, I forget his first name, his last name is Falcone. He's gonna be or Faulkner or something like that. He's got it in. Caitlyn Jenner, a few others. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, just to refresh our viewers' memories, this is a well-earned recall. We have had a year of lockdowns with Governor Newsom. He has essentially he has defied his own lockdowns, heading out to expensive restaurants with no less than health lobbyists who have also told us how dangerous this is while they go and wine and dine themselves. And, being lobbyists, that money is sort of coming indirectly from the public in a lot of ways too, most likely. But it's just crazy. I mean, we've had these literally last year we had orange skies during part of the year because of the fires that we've had here, which tries to say is just climate change, but certainly there's clearly some issues with our forest management as well.
Management, yes.
Yeah, I mean, we had an issue with prisoners in prison, literally people we've locked up for crimes being able to get unemployment while they're in prison, which is just insane. I mean, can the government do anything right? Literally lock us up in the vault with all of our money, and can't imagine it.
Well, apparently he's doing enough right to get a fairly decent approval rating, and I don't think he's going to be recalled personally. Unfortunately,
you don't think so? You think he's gonna survive the first question?
Yeah, if I have to go out on a limb, I would predict. If I have to look at the crystal ball, that rarely works, and make a prediction, then I would predict that he's going to make it through all this. I've maybe it's just me being bearish on the political climate of California for so long, and my default thing is to pessimism when it comes to the politics of California. So chalk it up to that. Not necessarily prescience. We'll see, though. What do you think, Leon?
Well, I mean, honestly, to me, it does not matter, because I think the same mentality that is ruining our state at the present moment, that will survive, whether it is in Gavin Newsom's body or in his replacement's body. The mentality will survive, and our state will still keep on going down the crapshoot hole it is going down right now. So it really doesn't make a difference to me who wins, who survives the recall, unless something radical happens, like maybe a Republican get in and win or something like that. Maybe something can change. but the mentality will survive, I think. So it really doesn't make a difference, quite frankly.
Wow, I thought I was pessimistic. Well, what do you think, Aaron, from across the fruited plain, the other side of the fruited plain?
From an outside perspective, it looks like the media is doing for Newsom the same thing it's doing for Cuomo here. And it looks like they're just crafting him into this titan of this hero of the pandemic that, without his leadership, without his, not interference, it's actually interference, but they will craft it as without his providing for everybody's safety, people would have died. Of course,
Yes.
people did die, but it would have been so much worse without him in place. And so that's the message that, people are scared, and they will play that fear till the wheels fall off.
Yeah.
That's a good point, but there's one.
That's good.
Go ahead, Tim. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I'm just agreeing with you. Sorry, Leon.
Oh, okay.
Do you like me to agree with you? Oh.
whatever rocks your boat today, it's okay. At least Tulsi is not rocking your boat, so it's okay. But there is a major hypocrisy here that is ongoing that I really have a problem with. During the election, they tell us, oh, signatures, we don't have to worry about signatures. We could verify signatures, maybe not. It don't have to be, it could be a little X. It doesn't have to be a perfect match. All these sort of things. Remember they told us that?
Yes.
But we're having a recall on Mr. Newsom. And you know what they have to do? Oh, we have to verify those signatures and we have to make sure they're correct. Otherwise, we'll have to kick them out. We'll have to kick out these people who signed the recall petitions.
Yeah.
So when it's a recall, one of these incumbents or one of their favorite incumbents, when it's a recall, the signature very matters. But when we go to vote, no. It's not as important. This is the hypocrisy that's going on here. Okay, They want us to accept lawlessness. That's their problem. Our vote, it is not very important as long as it produces the right person in power. That's all they're trying to tell us.
Jason, we should have some kind of sound effect and a banner whenever the hypocrisy card is being played on the Democrats here, because we do that all the time. I don't know. We should have like little explosions, little fireworks, and hypocrisy on parade.
I don't think we'd have any rest of the show would all be that just constantly.
It would for sure. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, but it's funny in thinking about this recall. It seems to me that one of the things that maybe it offers a real chance is for maybe a libertarian candidate to get in there, get some notice, and just be able to get some FaceTime with the cameras, because that is one thing that one of these recall elections allows. Is essentially you need almost nothing to get in on this. It's literally, I think it's like a $7,000 fee or something like that to either get in, or you need something in the neighborhood of like 5,000 signatures or something. I can't remember the exact number, but it's a pretty low bar, which means that there's maybe some libertarians out there that could potentially jump in, if nothing else, just to get some FaceTime with the camera and try and say, hey, look, there's a better way. We don't necessarily need to win this thing. We just need to alter the if you could turn the Titanic far enough in advance of that iceberg, just a degree,
it might miss the iceberg. Yeah.
Yes, but this is just the point. We are heading towards that iceberg. We see the iceberg laying there in the ocean, and we're going to recall the first captain. And you know what we're going to do? We're going to put another captain in this place, and he's going to be still headed towards the iceberg.
He's going to be going, what iceberg? All I see is palm trees.
Exactly.
Yeah, shoot. Okay, Mr. Pessimism has spoken, and I hate to have to agree, but I guess I'm going to have to.
All this said is California doesn't have a monopoly on terrible governors, and so as we mentioned before, Cuomo has got his own. I mean, he's
I think we're number one. we're the worst of the worst. We're the best of the worst.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as lying, it's sort of like if he speaks, his pants just burst in the flames. Tells you how wonderful a job he did, and he has CNN backing him up, to essentially, play fiddle in the background for him, support all of his narratives. But so tell us a little bit about, the bad experience. I guess all of the crazy stuff with Cuomo. And is there a movement to recall him at all, or is this?
There is. But it's like he has so much control over the state and over the media that like it's surprising that any of this actually managed to get out, because this entire year, I mean, he's been horrible for his entire tenure. In fact, New York has been shedding population, the number one state in losing population for years now. The pandemic just exacerbated that, just sped that up. But like what he did during the pandemic, from pretending that everything was fine. In fact, the mayor of New York City says, okay, yeah, we might need to lock down. And he goes, no, we don't need to lock down. Everything's fine. And then he announced the lockdown. And then one of the interesting things is, just a quick side note, in terms of like the voting hypocrisy. You know how the Democrats are talking about, the Republicans are trying to lessen the vote. Well, in the middle of the pandemic, during the lockdown, one of the first actions he took was to change the state ballot election laws. So he killed third parties in New York State.
Oh, geez.
Yes, that's one of the first things he did, was he changed the laws for the requirements for a third party to be a recognized party. And and nobody batted an eye.
Okay. Wow.
But then, of course, he did much worse than that. He sent people to nursing homes who were COVID positive, people who were the people who were most at risk from the disease. He sent people with the disease into their proximity, and everybody was praising him like he was. They were talking about him running for president. They really. And it was insane, because I'm looking at the numbers, and we have the worst numbers of any state in the country. And I remember my mom, she doesn't live in New York State, so she calls and she's like, "Oh, Trump is so horrible, but your governor seems like he's doing a really good job." I said, "Mom, have you looked at the numbers?" I was like, "Mom, you have the worst numbers of any state in the country." She goes, "Really?" I said, "Yes." I said, "It's horrible here." What? And so
it's amazing the job that the media can do to prop these guys up. I mean, they actually they were calling themselves Cuomo-sexuals during the
That's right.
And then the irony of ironies, suddenly he's being hit with sexual harassment.
Unbelievable. But is there an effort to recall him? I know there's an effort to impeach him in the legislature. Is there an effort to recall him, though?
No, there's no effort to recall him, like by decision tree. They want him to resign. He's not going to resign. He's too full of himself. He has too much power, and there's an effort to impeach him. But I think ultimately most of the Democrats will close ranks. There's some more left-leaning Democrats who are trying to use this opportunity, like they smell blood in the water. But I just don't think there's enough of them to actually successfully get rid of him.
I see.
But he may actually even, because he was planning on rerunning again. Yes. And that's the question. Has this done enough damage to him so that he actually won't do that? Or is he just, he's got a bunch of money in his campaign account, and I don't know if he's at this point where he's just so full of himself that he goes, you know what? I am going to run again, despite all of this.
Oh, you never know.
Yeah.
You never know.
even if he doesn't get recalled or, I guess thrown out of office, it may just be that enough people decide to escape New York and Los Angeles, I guess, on our side, that, maybe that's the way, you get rid of them. The people leave, the state leaves. And just leave them sitting there. But yeah, I mean, it's like those old movies, Escape from New York, Escape from LA. I mean, this is what's happening to places that are sort of the gems of the Team Blue, I mean, they're literally, their policies, their command and control is just causing people to flee. We've got people leaving in U-Hauls. In fact, it's funny, I was just coming from, I had a trip in Vegas this last weekend, and when we were on our drive back from Vegas, we saw at least 5 U-Hauls headed out. I mean, it was kind of hysterical, but the price differential in these U-Hauls with people voting with their feet is like 3 or 4 times the price to leave as it is to come, because not enough people who are coming with U-Hauls, I guess,
Yeah.
As far as New York goes, you mentioned people are escaping that. Number one, I guess.
Yes.
Where's everybody going? And
I mean, they're going down to Florida. Like AOC's mother left New York to go to Florida because the property taxes were too high.
I didn't know that. Oh,
yeah.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
And they're still promoting these policies. They're still taxing just people to oblivion.
Yeah, they want to increase the taxes. So, Aaron, I hope I'm not out of line, but do you have any plans of leaving New York?
I don't, because I do plan to stay and fight.
You're going to fight, okay?
Yeah,
I understand that too.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. All right.
It's kind of. Oh, sorry. Oh, our invisible hand has joined us.
I'm Smith. When you guys are talking about kind of staying and fighting, it got to me as someone who just actually ran for office, state assembly here in California. As there's an effort going on in the state assembly, state senate, actually just passed the state assembly. It's now in the state assembly to give Governor Newsom the names and addresses of everybody who signed the petition, talking about how strong the political machine is here in California.
Okay.
And when you're talking about especially state workers, I know for those people here locally, if you're a state worker and you have signed that petition, you maybe have some questions about how pleasant your job environment will be. Like, what I'm looking for.
Wow.
Is the political machine in New York that powerful, that where they can essentially do whatever they want and no one even says anything?
Yeah. Now, if that's a reason to get rid of them, I mean, if you didn't have enough prior, I mean, that right there, is should push you over the edge.
Talk about an invasion of privacy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, but it also brings up Leon's point earlier that it doesn't really matter if you get rid of Newsom, because that mindset that is controlling Newsom exists in the legislature. It exists in the Senate and the Assembly. It didn't, unless you elect people like me, you're not going to get it. The political machine isn't going to change.
Well, that is true, but would that affect your decision about whether or not to recall Newsom? So let's say you had to vote, get rid of him and let somebody else go in, or not. I mean, I would still vote to get rid of it.
Well, so it's in a sense it's the same as Prop 22 here, where you had, I guess nationally, it's what is that? The PRO Act, or whatever nationally they want to do now, is Prop 22 versus AB 5. And the Prop 22, I had Prop 22 was terrible, but it was better than AB 5, so you had no choice. And is getting rid of Newsom better than leaving him there? Well, yeah. Not only is he corrupt, he's incompetent. That's a terrible combination.
Yeah.
Well,
okay.
that's true, and that's a fair point. And Tim, that's a very good question. But I would, when the recall comes around, I would still vote to remove him. But I don't think it's going to make a difference in terms of who replaces him, given the crop of politicians we have out there right now, who are running the state essentially.
And James, I think we're getting an echo from your headphoneless personage over there.
It tells you how good of a director I am. I forgot to plug my headphones in. Yeah.
Yeah, directors run around with headphones. Haven't you heard?
Well, yeah, real directors do. When you guys pay me, I'll get some headphones.
Oh, that's right.
When we pay you, huh? Oh, that's what we gotta do to get some good directorship here.
I know what to get you for Christmas.
A paycheck? That's
No headphones. These little dangly things.
I've got one.
Back in.
I prefer a paycheck.
You prefer a paycheck? Okay.
I'll bet you do.
All right, I will leave you guys back to it.
All right,
by the way, you guys have about 4 minutes for your Knucklehead Noise Patrol.
Okay.
Well, you know, as we escape this topic of escaping from New York and Los Angeles, there's been other, burning news of the day, and that's the Chauvin trial verdict just came up. And so, I hate to miss that. And, the bottom line is he was convicted of all 3 charges. But, was it a fair process or not? And I guess that really brings up the question, when he was originally this happened, it was said he was a racist murderer. I guess if you believe then that this was a just result, was he a racist murderer then? Or, is this more of an issue of being a sacrificial lamb where the public just wants to offer it up just so the issue will go away? What do you guys think? It seemed like there was an awful lot of potential reasonable doubt in this trial.
Well, the prosecution did not raise one single piece of evidence that said that race had anything to do with what Chauvin did. Okay? Now, I'm not saying Chauvin is a good guy. I'm not suggesting that. But they did not raise one single issue about race during the trial. Okay, since this thing happened, we have all seen the video. We have seen our city's been burned down because of it, and it's all because of this systemic racism that is going on. That's what they claim. But yet, when we get into court, where it really matters, not one single issue of race was raised as to why Chauvin did what he did. Now, looking at the trial, there were 3 charges against him. I don't know if all of them were justified, but at least some of them were. Because even though Derek Chauvin started with a legitimate use of force by kneeling on George Floyd's neck, it was legitimate. It was in the police manual. But clearly, looking at that video, I think he went too far. So he was, as far as I'm concerned, he was guilty of something. Now, I don't know if all those murder charges were necessary, but he was guilty of something as far as I'm concerned, and he should have gone to prison as he is right now. But there's a twist in this. He probably going to get off because of Maxine Waters, that crazy fool who's a congresswoman from here in California. He's probably going to get off because of that. And the judge even said that. So we're probably going to be facing some rioting if this thing is ever overturned, which it probably will be.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad they didn't bring up race in the trial, because that's something that the Democrats like to do, and it's done as a smokescreen, and it's done in a way that actually heightens the burden. So you can't actually, because now if you have to prove that this person is a racist, like how do you prove an internal mindset? And it obscures from the actions that took place. And so often the Democrats will use charges of racism because it distracts from the fact of how responsible they are for the policies and the procedures that are going on. I mean, if you take a look at somebody like Eric Garner, they will say, oh yes, it's these racist cops, but they don't want to talk about the taxes, the sin taxes that are the reason why the cops were there to arrest Eric Garner in the first place. So it's something that the politicians do to move the attention off of them.
Well, that is so true. I mean, everything these days, I mean, in the point you made, everything these days has been masked by charges of racism. Nobody wants to look at policy. Look at our schools, okay?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, the urban schools in our urban centers are some of the crappiest schools probably in the world. Well, maybe that's an exaggeration, but certainly in the country.
Yes.
But nobody wants to talk about the education black and brown kids are getting in the urban parts of America.
Right.
Nobody wants to talk about that. But as soon as something goes wrong, the first thing we hear, systemic racism.
Right.
That's it.
And they don't talk
Everything has
about who's
been
running
masked
those
by
systems.
racism these days.
Yeah.
Well, one is funny too, because you talk about that one issue, and it's almost like the system is systemically not set up to serve those kids, right? I mean, you talk about a systemic abuse. I mean, who are those schools serving, right? I mean, if a bad private business isn't getting the job done, they go away. I mean, these schools, they're there forever, until the bricks, erode from time.
But this is the dangers. This is the dangers of having the government monopolize any function in our society.
Yes. Well, I think we're just about at that point in the show where we like to end on something a little bit lighter note of something silly that a politician or a media person said. And this time, it's once again, it's related to the Chauvin trial, but it is columnist from the Washington Post, Christine Emba. And in her column, she said, "Why I'm not watching the Derek Chauvin trial." And so essentially, she had said this, said feckless legislatures are trotting out old arguments against those who seek reform in police conduct. The real problem is black criminality. The police don't deserve all this trouble. In the words of Senator John Neely Kennedy, the next time you get in trouble, call a crackhead. And then she says, well, maybe I will. Statistically, they're less likely to shoot me, it would seem. So, I know Washington Post now is saying that they're more in favor of calling crackheads for help than the police.
Yes.
It almost sounds like they're in an echo chamber. I don't know. I don't know. What do you guys think? It seems like a pretty crazy statement from what we thought was a respectable newspaper. I don't know.
Well, there's no vaccine. There's no vaccine for stupidity. That's one thing to take note of that. But if this woman ever lived in the real world, if she did call the crackhead, she's more likely to be shot than being shot by the police, despite what MSNBC and CNN says. Okay, so she should try calling the crackhead if she thinks she's better off calling them. Please do. I wish you luck. Please do.
Anybody else have any thoughts on that from our panel?
Well, you mean, okay, I had to read it because you went silent for a moment. But so the crackhead is less likely to shoot her than a cop. I don't know. I guess that would assume that
statistically
she was,
less likely. She said
statistically, yeah. Okay.
She's got some numbers there, apparently.
Yeah.
Well, if you give them some crack.
Yeah. There you go.
Maybe she's got the crack available.
Yes.
Well, she probably has a point. I don't know what good it does. I mean, I'm statistically less likely to die in a plane crash than I am in a car crash, but that doesn't mean that I don't take lots of check rides and get a yearly re-indoctrination from flight safety. So, just because anyway, I don't know. That's just crazy talk, but there we are. We're talking politicians, aren't we?
Well, a media personality. Maybe I would say she should do her little experiment. She should, whenever she gets in trouble, call the crackhead instead and see how it turns out. I think she should do that.
Really? Maybe we can get some statistics on that afterwards.
There you go. Then we should get some real statistics, and then she could say, oh, maybe I'm not better off doing this. Maybe she might learn a lesson or two.
Good idea.
Well, that's just about the end of our show. But we've had a good time. We had a good time with our guest, Aaron Comey, of Escaping the Echo Chamber. Go check his show out. And you want to give out your web page real quick, just to say it out for listeners?
Yeah, skippingtheechochamber.com.
Okay. Yeah. So, go check that out. And we hope to see you again next week. So until then, stay free.
Aaron, it was nice meeting you. Bye.
Nice meeting you. Thank you for having me.